if you went into your basement tonight, and there's a new door there that had never been there before, would you open it? I opened that door and my life changed forever, and it's probably over now. My name is Ryan. I live in Chicago, a normal guy. Last month I bought an old house. Cheap, quiet neighborhood, and quiet spacious. There was only one thing that was strange. The seller didn't tell me anything about the basement. I liked the place, so I bought it. The early days were great. It was almost as if there was another world behind the darkness. I turned on the flashlight of my mobile and looked inside. There was a staircase in front of me going down. But the strange thing was that this staircase was very long. It could not have been as deep as the basement. Every alarm inside me was screaming, "Go back! This is not normal!" But I went down then one day. When I went to put some stuff in the basement, I noticed something strange. There was a door in the corner of the wall that had never been there before. I was surprised. Last week, this wall was completely straight and empty. I thought maybe there was a secret room that the previous owner had hidden. Just a small cut, like it had to be pushed open. The door was wooden, old-fashioned, and there was no handle or latch on it. A strange sensation ran through my body, but curiosity prevailed, and I slowly pushed the door. The door opened. It was dark inside. I was going down. The stairs were made of stone, but they were full of moisture, as if no one had stepped on them for centuries. I tried to make a call on my mobile phone. My heart started to sink. I opened the next page. It said, "This place is outside of time." I now opened another door, and what was in front stopped my steps. My father, who had been dead for 10 years, smiled at me and said, "Son, it's late, but I have come to get you. There is no life here, only memories, shadows, and what he sees." My hand started shaking. At that moment, I felt a shadow moving on the wall of the room. I immediately turned on the flashlight of my mobile. There was nothing. I tried to leave the room, but the path I had come through had now turned into a new wall. But the strange thing was that the wall was breathing. Yes, I felt myself moving in and out of the wall, as if it were a living thing. Then the same shadow appeared again. This time it was a little closer, so close that I could hear its breathing. "Who are you?" I asked loudly, but only a whisper was heard in response. "You opened the door. Now you are mine." I saw a small hole in the wall on one side, like a tunnel. Without thinking, I crawled into it. The tunnel was dark and very narrow, but after a while it opened into another room. In this room, there were pictures on the floor. Pictures of me from my childhood to the present. Some of the pictures were ones I had never taken. In one picture, I was standing in front of the basement door, and a black shadow was smiling behind me. I quickly tore up the pictures. At that moment, a scream was heard. The light in the room started to flicker, and suddenly a voice rang out. "Welcome to my world." There was a broken mirror on one wall of the room. I went in front of it, and as soon as I looked, my reflection was not there. But I was standing there, but my eyes were black. The same shadow was crawling on my face. I stepped back, and then the mirror automatically fell to the ground and shattered. Now, I understood that this place was not ordinary. There was no signal. Now I had only one way to go. After descending about 50 to 60 steps, the stairs opened into a small room. This room was strange. There were inscriptions on the walls, writings from ancient times, as if in another language. In the middle of the room was a table, and on it was an old, locked diary. My breathing was getting faster with each step. The flashlight on my mobile phone also seemed dim now, as if some force was swallowing the light. I looked back and was shocked. The door above had disappeared. The door through which I had entered had now turned into just a stone wall. I started sweating. Am I trapped? I opened the diary. The first page was stained with blood, and it said, "If you've come this far, you're not allowed to go back." This was not a basement. It was a labyrinth, a maze where every door opened. New dreams, shadows, and realities. Standing in front of me was the same person, my father, who had been buried for 10 years. His clothes were the same as when he was last seen, but his eyes had the same blackness that I had seen in that mirror. I thought, this place is not an ordinary trap. It is alive. At that moment, suddenly a door appeared on the wall. The same old basement door through which I had entered. I stepped back and said, "No, you are not him. You are not my father." He smiled, and the smile slowly faded until his face turned into a shadow, and he transformed into a creature whose face was not like a human's. He had many teeth in his mouth, cracks in his skin, and eyes like deep wells. So now you know that this is no longer your world. I ran away from the creature, but the door through which I had come had disappeared. The walls slowly started to move as if this place was breathing. A strange whisper was echoing from the ceiling. Once something goes down, it doesn't go up. I took my lighter out of my pocket and lit it. As the light spread, human handprints began to appear everywhere in the room. On the walls, on the ceiling, on the floor, as if someone was ready to catch those who came here. I kept the old diary with me that I found in the first room. I opened the next page and it read, "Everything in this labyrinth is alive. Even time, what you are seeing, is not you, but itself." I ran towards it and opened the door, and I was back in the basement. Everything seemed normal. I breathed a sigh of relief. But as soon as I turned around, another Ryan was standing in front of me. He said, "You opened a door. Now, this is my world, and you are just a memory." I screamed, "I am the real one. You are a copy." He smiled and replied, "I wish you knew this for sure." At that moment, the lights in the basement went out, darkness fell, and when the light came on, I was back in that same maze. Now I was in a room where old graves were built on the walls. Each grave had a name written on it. I looked carefully. My name was written on one of the graves. Ryan James died inside. My eyes widened. There was a sound behind me, the same shadow. Now it bent over my head and said, "Your grave is calling you." Suddenly, I felt like an earthquake. The whole place started shaking. I started to lose consciousness. When I regained consciousness, I was in my bedroom. Everything was normal. Sunlight, birdsong, cars outside. Was it all a dream? But as soon as I went to the bathroom, a word was written in blood on the mirror. "Welcome back." He was just like me. His clothes, his body, his face, everything was the same, but his eyes had the same deep blackness. I stepped back. The ground beneath my feet gave way. I was in my bedroom, but the mirror was written in blood, "Welcome back." My heart started beating fast. I immediately tried to wipe the blood away, but as soon as I touched it, my hands went inside the mirror. The mirror was no longer glass. It had become like water, as if it were a door to another world. Suddenly, a voice came from behind me. This time, "You will go completely inside." The truth is, I opened the door and started falling down, weightless, in the abyss of darkness. Then suddenly I found myself in the basement, the same old diary in my hand, but this time I was not alone. There were many shadows standing around me. Everyone had the keys to the door. A shadow stepped forward and said, "You came back, but are you still Ryan?" I looked at my hand. The skin looked strange, as if another face was slowly forming. A question kept echoing in my mind. Am I still human, or have I changed beyond that door? Then that basement door opened again, but now someone else was standing behind her. Not my mother. Her face was wrong. She stepped forward and said, "Son, come now. Everything will be fine." I took a step back. Her voice, her eyes. She was not my mother. The door slowly closed and a final whisper came. "Whoever you are, that door is yours." Now I turned around. My duplicate, that is, a shadow creature in my own image, was standing there again. He extended his hand towards me, and his fingers seemed to dissolve in the air. Then suddenly, the objects in the entire room started moving. Books started flying, windows started rattling, and the ground started shaking. The mirror started pulling me inside. Half of my body went inside the mirror. I screamed loudly. "I know this is all a dream. Let me go back," and then everything stopped. The next moment, I was standing in a new place. Fog everywhere, treeless forest, and a soft, scratchy whisper echoed in the air. "You are no longer in a dream. You have become the one you were running from." There were many doors in front of me. Different faces were on each door. On one was my mother's, on one was my teacher's, and on the other was my own smiling face. I thought that if I recognized myself, I would be able to go back. I opened my door, but as soon as I stepped inside, thousands of Ryans stood in front of me, all of them looking like me. But each one had something different in their eyes. Some had fear, some had anger, some had madness, some had emptiness. One Ryan stepped forward and said, "So you consider yourself the real one?" "We all consider that." "Then who is the one living your life outside?" At that moment, a door appeared behind me. There was no face on it, only words were written. The face behind the door was not my mother's, but something that took the form of my mother and wanted to reach my heart. That creature, that shadow, moved towards me and whispered, "You opened the door. Now you have become the door." I stepped back, but behind me there was only darkness, and I kept running down the same labyrinthine stairs. I kept opening every door, but every time the same fate, either a shadow awaited me or I was back in the basement. But every time something changed, sometimes my funeral would be on the table. Sometimes I would grow old in the mirror, and sometimes I would see myself eating. Am I alive, or is this all a punishment after death? Now I open that same old diary. Its last page was blank until a few moments ago, but now there was something written on it. You have seen all 5 doors. Now the decision is yours. Either go back and forget everything, or stay here and become the new gatekeeper of this labyrinth. The next day I recorded a video. If anyone is watching this video, then listen to me carefully. You are the door itself. The story is not over, because next time a new door will appear in someone else's basement. There's a door in the basement of my house that shows you what you want to hide. If you ever see a new door in your basement, so never open it, because you don't know who is standing there to take you. I finished the video, but then something touched me from behind. I turned around and looked. The mirror in my room was now watery again. There were tears in my eyes. There was only one prayer in my heart. Oh God, if I am human, save me. And if I have become that, then just end it now. A voice came from the mirror. You have made your decision. A big black door opened in front of me. My name was written on it. Ryan James the Keeper. Moment. Another door opened in front of me. It was a simple wooden door, just like the one in the basement of my house. I stepped forward, and the door opened. My real house in front of me. The kitchen, sofa, windows. Everything was as I had left it. I ran inside and immediately closed the door. I was out of breath. My heart was pounding, but I had survived. Life slowly became normal. I closed the basement door and built a wall. I didn't tell anyone, because who would believe it? I started sleeping, eating, and drinking became normal. But one night, a notification came on my mobile. One new memory added to Google Photos. I opened, and the picture that came up was the one in which I was standing in front of the basement door, and behind me, then the same shadow smiling. Now, you are not just a path,